Well, I mentioned at the start of the show, we have a guest joining us. I believe she's going to be joining us by videos. We'll see her in a moment. This is part of our Women Leaders series. Konni Burton, she's the founder of the Texas independent newspaper, The Texan, an independent newspaper. She's also a former state senator. And actually, I just was thrilled when she was a state senator. She's a very bright and very accomplished and very outspoken, just a stellar representative of her district in the time she's served in the Texas State Senate. So I believe we have Konni. And there she is. Hi,
Hey,
Konni.
how are you? Hi.
Hi, I'm well, and I'm so glad you're here. Well, I love the idea that you, after you left the Texas State Senate, you started your own newspaper. This is called The Texan. It's an online paper, and I could read a bunch of things about it. But just to start with, why did you decide to do this after you left the Texas State Senate?
Right. Well, I think most of your listeners would understand the frustration that we all who are right of center have with legacy media outlets. And when I say legacy media outlets, I mean traditional newspapers. Most of them now have gone online as well, but the major newspaper outlets. I think now more than ever, particularly with President Trump, you see their bias, not only bias, but outright making up of stories. We've seen this over the course of time that President Trump has been president, but not only then. I mean, this is something that's been frustrating to those of us who are right of center for a very long time. I remember back in the days before I was even an activist, before I ran for office, getting rid of calling up our Fort Worth Star Telegram and saying, I don't want to get y'all anymore because you do not respect my worldview. And this was quite a while ago. I mean, it was at least 20 years ago. And so certainly then when I became an activist, and then certainly when I ran for office and was in office, then you really see the bias that comes out from these media outlets. They're not as interested in getting information out to people as they are in pushing a left-wing agenda. And I was tired of that. I decided that, we needed to do something about it. And so we launched the Texan not quite a year ago now.
It has become such a force in Texas. So many people know about it. I actually didn't think, I thought it had been around longer than that, but you're not even a year. Okay. Well, I love that. So tell me the way that you try to, I know that you're not exactly trying to be the, conservative only Fox News equivalent. You're kind of delivering right of center factual reporting. Is that right?
That's correct. So I always say, because I go around and speak about the Texan a lot, and I always tell them, we are not an advocacy organization. I love all our advocacy organizations that are right of center, but those organizations usually endorse and maybe rate, legislators, those kinds of things. They speak differently, right? They are trying to, they have more opinion, so to speak, right? And I love that, and that's good. And we all need those organizations. We need those advocacy organizations. For instance, say on life issues or fiscal issues or religious liberty issues, right? But what we don't have on the right is a straight news organization that will give you the facts, but give you the facts from the right of center perspective. And let me help you to understand it in case your viewers are kind of confused by that. We talk about stories that the legacy media outlets ignore. They either ignore, or when they speak about it, they couch it in different ways. For instance, illegal immigration, border security are very, very important to right of center Texans. And yet most all news outlets in Texas, legacy news outlets, report it in a way that as if you don't support say open border type of policy, you are racist, right? You're
Yes,
kind of
yes,
couched
exactly.
in those kinds of terms, right?
Yep.
They use terminology that's ridiculous for abortion, reproductive health care. Those of us on the right don't consider abortion reproductive health care.
Healthcare at
So
all.
what we
Yes.
see, exactly. So what we see all the time is the legacy media outlets perpetuate what left of center the Democrats push, right? It becomes their language as well. And it basically, does not respect that we have a different viewpoint on border security. Oh, we're concerned about drugs coming across, illegal immigration, sovereignty of the country. I mean, we have
Trafficking.
real
Yeah.
reasons. Yes, we have real legitimate reasons for standing on particular issues, but that never comes across in legacy media outlets. Now, again, that's not to say when we write articles that we hit people over the head with that. We just again, we write the article from the perspective of national sovereignty, why we're concerned about it, the laws that are in place, why those kinds of things. So we show it in a way that's respectful to right of center, and we also talk about stories that frankly left of center legacy media outlets just don't even cover.
Yeah, I also noticed you had. I looked through some information about what you are when you go and speak. You talk about it. So you also do some kind of little mini interview podcast kind of thing. Also, is that right? Can you explain,
Yes,
talk
yes,
about that?
thank you. Yes. So we also, in addition to all our content that we have on our website, which by the way is the Texan.news. So when you go to the Texan.news, we've got lots and lots of content there for you to take a look at. But if you continue to scroll down, we also have video interviews that we do. And, I've done them with Congressman Crenshaw. We've done them with House Rep Kyle Biederman. We do it with, people in the community, anything that has to do with the political world. We have interviews excuse me. And like, for instance, we had a whole series of them, very hot race in Austin before the primary election, all the Republican candidates that were running in the primary it's a seat that's traditionally been safe red, but it turned blue last election cycle. And so there's a lot of Republicans that are coming in to try to win that seat back. So we had an interview with all of the candidates so people could see it. Another one that might be interesting to a lot of people is, we have a race for this Republican state chair. And I interviewed Colonel Allen West and James Dickey both separately and just tried to ask them the same kinds of questions so that, if you're a delegate and you're going to the convention, that might be helpful as well.
That was very good. Yeah, very, very good. So I do want to ask you about some specific topics that I happen to see articles in the Texan. And again, it's the Texan.news. I had that down to tell people because I do want people to go look at it afterwards. But I do want to ask,
Good.
so you employ people. You've got reporters who go out and
Yes.
cover stories and write stories, correct? Okay.
Yes.
So
That
this
is right.
obviously
So-
is that.
Go ahead. I'm
So
sorry.
it ain't free. So that's okay. So you got to have subscribers to pay these people who do the work, right?
That's correct. My husband and I, when we look, it's probably not surprising to most of your listeners and viewers that right now most media outlets are going under. And here we are opening a media organization, right? So obviously we looked a lot at the models that are out there, what they're doing wrong, what these legacy media outlets are doing wrong, which we know first and foremost is they do not respect the worldview of half of Texans or half of the country, frankly, right? That's a big portion of why they're going under. But there's additional reasons too. And so obviously we looked into, how we could sustain. And so my husband and I, just like most people that launch a business, we put a lot of our eggs into this basket. We have launched it. We, are putting the seed money to get this baby started. That's how much we believe in this, that we believe Texas needs this. And we've got an editor. We've got 3 staff writers in Austin. We've got an outreach director. We've got an IT marketing guy. We've got our operations director. We've got freelance writers in other areas of Texas. We have got people that we are paying. We have a payroll. We are a legitimate business. We are not, a couple of people who sit behind a computer, right? And so, yes, you're correct. They need to be paid. And so how we are functioning is we are a subscription site. And frankly, Debbie, you probably noticed as well that most of these legacy media outlets, it's just like back in the day when we subscribed to our newspapers. Sorry about that. We subscribed to our newspapers and it came on our driveway every morning. Now, they're all going to a subscription based online as well. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to be accountable to our readers and to our readers only. We don't want to be accountable to advertisers who are more interested in clicks. Therefore, your headlines need to be sensationalized. That's where we get this clickbait that so many of us get so tired of. When you open it up and you read it, it doesn't have anything to do with what the headline was. That's all that advertisers really care about is the number of clicks. We also didn't want to have, just some big donors that told us perhaps a direction that we needed to go. That might
don't talk about that issue,
right?
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So, and there's nothing wrong with either, but we realize that we don't want to be held accountable by anybody but our readers. And we send out surveys quarterly to get, feedback from the kind of content they're wanting to hear. We can move quickly and agilely to what's going on. We don't have to, go to any kind of board of directors and find out if this is okay or worry about the clicks that it's getting. We are getting out real information on politics that is going to educate Texans for all levels of government here in Texas.
Okay, I have meant to mention also, Connie, that you have a presence on Twitter, and I was going to share that. Yeah. Okay. So it's at Konni, which is Konni, at Konni Burton, and that is you have the little label you put on your own Twitter page, continuing the fight for Texas, which I just love that. I love that.
Good.
But
Good.
One of the articles that you mentioned, there, one of the top stories has to do with this coronavirus pandemic that the world is facing. And I don't know whether I know you probably don't get to read every single article that's on the Texan, or maybe not, but
I do read them all.
Oh, you do?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, I do read them all. Now, I don't know each and every story like the writers do, right? And so, but we have been obviously on the coronavirus from way back. We have contacts in DC, we have contacts at the state legislature, obviously. And, they were kind of letting us know that this was a concern. And so we were writing articles about it. Again, not sensationalized, not blaming anybody. We're just giving people the facts as we know it, when we know it. So we've been writing on this a lot. And then there was a great one today that came out about the you could probably tell me better, the medication that I think everybody's screaming at President Trump about currently.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know you wrote about that. Chlorohydrate.
Yes.
Whatever it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was like, I shouldn't even try to pronounce that. We wrote an article today from an ER doctor in Dallas who is seeing great results of that. And so, here's the deal. We're not saying this is, it's like, this is the end all be all. We're not sensationalizing it, but we are reporting it. And, people need to see that too, that what's working, what's not working. There's so much misinformation out there. And basically what we want to do is say to people, if you come to the Texan, if you subscribe to the Texan, you can read us and you can be educated on as local as we can get. Obviously, we're still very small and we're growing, but we can't be local everywhere in Texas. Texas is a large state, but
Yeah.
we try to get as local as we can. We certainly are state level and federal level as well, but we're only Texas focused. So the news has to affect Texas in some way for us to report on it. We're not going to report on the latest AOC tweet or even, frankly, the latest Trump tweet. We've got plenty of
Okay,
people
I'll do that for you. Go ahead. I'll do that here on my show.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
exactly.
do want to
You're
jump in.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's somebody else's job, and we don't want to do that, right? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. On that story, though, on the coronavirus, broadly speaking, one thing I was grateful to see in your paper was an article by someone who was talking about, because we live, as I told my listeners, and we have listeners, Connie, I think you know, around the country. In fact, I don't even know if the majority are in Texas, so it's a nationwide show. But of course, I talk about Texas because we live here, and here in Dallas County, where I live, we are under a shelter-in-place order. You literally are not supposed to go out except, to the doctor or the grocery store, things you have to do. Otherwise, stay home. And there was great controversy about the issuance of that order. And one article you had in your newspaper, which was just very well written, was explaining where the information came from on which the Dallas County Commissioners Court based that order. The county judge based that order. It was a shelter-in-place order, but it actually came from the statistics handed out by the county to justify this shelter in place came from a private organization, COVID Act Now, not the CDC, not the state health department, but a private organization, which it was, I mean, that's a great example to me of the value of your paper, because I think most Texans, most Dallasites assume, well, if they're saying this, they must have good recent data that is official, that is coming from the government. But it's not. It's a private organization that has, it appears, and their numbers are not consistent with what the federal numbers are, CDC numbers are. But your writer's article, I've forgotten who wrote this, but basically was pointing that out. This came from this, with not even a judgmental adjective. I might have added in a judgmental adjective about that site. But anyway, your person just said, hey, here's where, I know, but here's where it came from. And, so judge accordingly. I thought it was just a great example of what your newspaper does. Really stellar.
Right. Thank you very much. It's interesting as I go around talking about the Texan, I think it dawns on everybody how, when I speak, I say, we just want to give you the facts and then you make up your own mind, how you feel about that. And everybody just kind of goes, thank you. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they likely, all of us who are right of center likely will end up at the same place. Maybe not. Maybe there's some nuances there, here and there. But a lot of people are tired of getting opinions shoved in their face everywhere. Now, if they go to this site or this site, and then the text, like for instance, what I see a lot is people will want to watch a show. People will want to listen to this personality, right of center
this
personality,
pundit or something.
and, yes, exactly. And then they'll want to read the Texan, right? But what they're tired of is picking up the Houston Chronicle day after day after day, and it just be this whipping force of it against right of center Texans. And so it's very nice that people can pick and choose where they want to get their information. But like I said before, they haven't really had a straight news organization from the right. And so we see us as complementing the other, information sites that they may go to.
Okay, you had a very polite and nice term you used. I wrote it down, the legacy media outlets. I sometimes call them the Democrat media mob, but you don't have to call them that. I can call them that. But on this note, Konni Burton, first of all, I want to commend you again because you are widely known in Texas as an activist, as a state senator. And so honestly, after that, you could have said, hey, you know what, that was fun, I'm done. Mm-hmm. But taking this up, getting this newspaper going was really a way for you to say, I'm staying in not the fight for precisely what I want, but for people to be informed and to be activists and to have a factual place to go so you can be a good activist, an honest activist. So I just commend you. What a great, great thing. And again, the website for it is
the Texan.news. And I'll tell everybody we are on, of course, Facebook and of course, Twitter. And we even have an Instagram page as well. So look for us on all of those social media sites. Please like and follow us and share our articles, because the more you share them, the more we get the word out and the more successful we'll be and the more reporting we can do.
And on that note, Konni Burton, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Debbie. You're always awesome. Thanks so much for reaching out to me. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Great talking to you. And again, friends, that's Konni Burton, a just great friend and also the founder of The Texan. And it is really truly a great source. And I introduced her as part of our Women Leader series. There are more women speaking up in this era, in this time, in 2020, moving forward from the conservative perspective, from the, as Konni says, play the right of center, whatever you want to use the term, people who do not want to buy in to what the left is trying to sell America, and especially American women. Konni, great thinker. I've had great policy debates with her. Obviously, I know her off air. Great policy debates with her over the years. She's a really well-informed thinker, and it's a great service that she is creating really for all of Texas for putting this newspaper together and urging people to actually have the facts. And it was Konni Burton. The Texan is the name of the online paper, and it is thetexan.news to go to it, and you can read a little bit online, then you can subscribe. So wanted to thank her for doing that. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk to her.